Hello and welcome back to this course. In the previous session, we have discussed the nesting of loops, that is, how we can implement multiple loops inside the other loop. In this session, we are going to discuss two important statements that is most frequently used to control the flow of nested loop. Very first is the break statement. Now we often come across situation where we want to jump out of a loop instantly without waiting to get back to the conditional test. Okay, the keyword break allows us to do this. When break is encountered inside any loop, control automatically passes to the first statement. Break is usually associated with an if. So here is an example in which we have a main function, two variable initialized with num, and I have read the value of num from the user. Initialize the value of I equal to 2 while I is less than equal to num minus 1, num modulus I is equal to 0. If num modulus I equal to 0, we have to printf not a prime number and just break the loop. Okay. In this program, the moment num percent I turns out to be 0, that is num is exactly divided by I, the message not a prime number is printed and the control breaks out the while loop. Okay, that means this while loop is, there are two ways the control could have reached outside the while loop. One is if this condition satisfied, that means the number is exactly divided by I, then it is reached outside the while loop, and it jumped out because the number proved to be not a prime, that means this number is exactly divided by this I. Okay, and another way is the loop came to an end because the value of I became equal to num. That means this loop completes its repetition and I is now exceeded the value of num minus 1. So the counter value exceeds the test condition and hence it just quits the loop and come outside the body. Okay, and at last it compares the value. If I is equal to num, then printf prime number. Okay, so the keyword break breaks the control only from the while in which it is placed. That means if there are multiple while loop, then the break placed in the while loop will breaks only. Okay, that means if there is another while loop, then only this while loop will break, not the other one. Okay, we'll try to run this code in the code block session. Okay, so let's jump to the code block window. So create a new file again, save the file and write break.c. Okay, you can comment demonstration of break statement. Now we will implement the example code for break statement. So let's start by including the header file. Now start the main function. Define the variable int num comma I semicolon. Next we have to print the message in the output window. Printf, enter the number. Now read the value and store it to the num variable. We can write scanf within double quotes %d comma ampersand num. Now let's initialize the value of I equal to 2. Now we can write a while loop for I less than or equal to num minus 1. Start the curly brackets. Now test that if num modulus I is equal to 0. That means the number is totally divisible by I. Then we have to printf the message not a prime number. Here we can use break statement to jump out of this while loop. Okay, now write I++ for updating the loop variable count, and outside the loop we have to again test that if I is equal to num, we have to printf the message prime number. You can understand by looking at this function that this function is used to test a entered number whether it is a prime or not. Okay, now what is prime number? Prime number is basically a number that is divisible by 1 or itself. Okay, such as 3, 7, 11, 13, because if you divide this number with any other, that will not be divisible. Okay, so the same logic has been written here. I is starting from 2, that means 1 is skipped. So from 2 to the num minus 1, that is if we are taking number 13, then from 2 to 12, this 13 number is tested whether it is exactly divisible by that number or not. So if it is divisible by that number, that means it's not a prime number, because prime number is not divisible by the numbers other than 1 or itself. Okay, so As soon as it returns true, that means any number divides the given number, then it's not a prime number, and just break. That means you can quit from the loop. Okay, and you can test here that if I equal to num, so if num is divided by I, then obviously I is not equal to num. This condition will be satisfied only when this loop will complete the counter from 2 to num minus 1. Okay, so that means if the number is not divided by any of the number between 2 to num minus 1, then it's a prime number. Okay, so let's build the code and you will see 0 errors and 0 warning. Now let's run the code. Okay, so now just enter the number. I'm entering 12. Okay, it has shown that it's not a prime number. Okay, because 12 is not a prime number. Try running once again. This time I'm entering 13 and you will see the output shows prime number. Okay, so that is the use of break statement, that whenever you want to jump out of the loop body, you can call this break statement. Okay, so I hope that the break statement is clear to you. Okay, if you have any doubt, feel free to reach us.